Sometimes I like to come on my channel and read a few pages of a book if I find that it is information that will help enlighten, inform, and help neurodivergent folks, specifically autistic folks. I know a lot of my viewers are readers, and sometimes you guys will ask me for book recommendations. And so I like to just share the resources that I think is really, really helpful, because sometimes that's all we can really do. Share the resources that we find helpful for ourselves in hopes that other neurodivergent folks can benefit from them just as much as us. And a lot of the times these resources that I share are made by other neurodivergent folks. And so it's like a full circle moment where we help each other out. So the book I'll be reading from today is called The Light Within: A New Era of Purpose for Neurodivergent Sensitivity. This book was written by 𝗪cie. And what I love about this book is that it includes a lot of intersections of topics that we don't normally see brought together in a holistic way. We think that our physical health is separate from our mental health, and we think that our careers are separate from our personal lives. But in reality, all of it is interconnected. So if you wish to bring balance on one aspect of your life, you're going to have to reevaluate how to do so in every other aspect of your life as well. This book is very thorough, so it goes through a bunch of comorbid conditions that is associated to neurodivergence. As someone who's been living with chronic conditions, chronic pain, and is oftentimes disabled by my physical limitations, I look forward to reading about and learning things that I have yet to learn. So if you're neurodivergent and you may struggle with chronic pain, chronic conditions, comorbid conditions, or you're just struggling in general with burnout and things like that, this book is such a good resource in helping to shift your perspective surrounding your limitations and giving you a guideline on better ways to go about it that doesn't push yourself past your limit and continue the cycle of trauma that brought your body to the point of being disabled in the first place, but to actually use your limitations as a signal to constantly recalibrate your approach to life. With that being said, feel free to sit back, relax, and let me read to you. I definitely recommend you guys do something mindlessly while you listen to this, because oftentimes we process a lot more effectively when we're moving our bodies. So listen to this while you go on your daily walk, or while you're cooking yourself some food, or while you're cleaning up around the house, while you're doing laundry, while you're gardening, while you're working out. Regardless, I am so thankful to be a part of your day and to take part in nourishing your mind and your soul. This book is a guide for those who have felt their health challenges and sensitivities place them outside traditional definitions of wellness and vitality. The Light Within speaks to neurodivergent individuals, those with unique ways of processing, sensing, and connecting with the world, who may be navigating chronic conditions that mainstream approaches often view through a narrow, symptom-focused lens. If you are someone who finds that typical medical or wellness frameworks don't fully resonate with your experience, or if you feel called to explore the deeper energetic, emotional, and spiritual aspects of your health, this book was created for you. Many sensitive and neurodivergent people experience an amplified awareness of both internal and external environments, which can manifest as chronic conditions, emotional overwhelm, or persistent physical symptoms. Here, we view these experiences not as limitations to fix, but as keys to self-discovery and personal evolution. Through this book, you will find a compassionate lens on conditions like ADHD, autism, autoimmune issues, chronic fatigue, and others that are common in neurodivergent people. These pages invite you to explore how each condition may be an invitation from your body, a message pointing to areas of your life that could benefit from gentler boundaries, deeper rest, and empowered self-care. Whether you are a highly sensitive person, someone living with a neurodivergent mind, or simply seeking a more holistic understanding of chronic conditions, This book offers tools and insights to support a journey toward balance, strength, and authenticity. It is not a conventional health manual. Instead, it invites you to shift perspectives, listen deeply to the wisdom of your body, and engage with healing in a way that honors every part of who you are. We begin with sensitivity, not as a weakness, not as a defect, but as an evolved trait, a gift that runs deeply in certain individuals. This sensitivity exists on many levels: perceptual, emotional, cognitive, even energetic. Neurodivergence exists on a broad spectrum, encompassing various ways of processing, perceiving, and thinking. Autism, ADHD, sensory processing differences, and other neurodivergent expressions are not simply differences from a typical norm. They are variations of the brain wiring that allow for unique thought processes, creative problem solving, and deep focus. These variations enable individuals to experience the world in ways that can be strikingly rich and intense. Neurodivergence is not a flaw or a deficiency. It's an alternative route through the mind and the senses. It's a diversity in cognition that, when understood and supported, reveals capabilities that are both powerful and essential. For neurodivergent individuals, heightened perception and sensory experiences are often accompanied by unique ways of processing information. This can mean having a vivid inner world or being able to focus intensely on specific interests while struggling to adapt to conventional systems or expectations. This can mean having a vivid inner world or being able to focus intensely on specific interests while struggling to adapt to conventional systems or expectations. These individuals operate in a world that isn't structured to support or understand these ways of being. Many experience sensory overload, social misunderstandings, or difficulty focusing in typical settings. But rather than seeing this as a problem to be fixed, we can begin to view neurodivergence as a key to new ways of thinking, feeling, and connecting with life. The traits that define neurodivergent individuals are their assets, though they require unique environments and practices to be fully realized. Where sensitivity and neurodivergence are involved, there's often a link to chronic conditions. Many sensitive or neurodivergent individuals develop physical challenges such as autoimmune conditions, chronic fatigue, or food sensitivities. Conditions that in many cases can seem confusing or unexplainable by traditional medical standards. These chronic conditions are not simply the body's breakdown. Rather, they may represent the body's response to an overwhelming environment, signaling a need for deep recalibration and conscious boundaries. They often show up as the body's way of calling for balance and attention. When sensitive individuals are consistently pushed into high stimulation environments or pressured to fit into rigid social systems, they may experience an overload that leads to chronic symptoms. Autoimmunity, for example, can be seen as the body attacking itself, often because the nervous system has been in a state of high alert for far too long. Food sensitivities might reflect the body's difficulty in processing overstimulating or unnatural inputs. Chronic fatigue may represent the body's need to pause and recover from a world that pushes it beyond its natural limits. In these ways, chronic conditions can be understood as the body's protective mechanisms, ways of drawing boundaries when the mind and spirit are stretched too far. Instead of seeing these conditions as weaknesses, we can interpret them as messages that there is a need to realign, to withdraw from what harms, and to prioritize care. These experiences become powerful signals, leading us back to ourselves, showing us what we need in order to thrive. As we explore these topics further in this book, we will dive into each condition, each neurodivergent expression, each symptom and signal. We will look beyond conventional views and reframe these experiences as invitations to self-awareness, strength, and growth. Sensitivity and neurodivergence are advanced ways of being, and they require advanced levels of care, discernment, and personal empowerment. By learning to listen to the body, by respecting the messages in our sensitivities, and by crafting lives that align with our unique ways of being, we can move from merely surviving to truly thriving. This journey isn't about fixing ourselves to fit into a world that doesn't understand us. It's about creating environments, practices, and mindsets that allow us to embrace our full selves, to take ownership of our experiences, and to transform what might seem like challenges into sources of profound strength and purpose. Sensitivity is our gift. Neurodivergence is our path. And in both, we find the power to reshape our lives from the inside out. In a sensitive, neurodivergent body, every sensation, reaction, and condition holds meaning. The body is not just a vessel, nor is it simply something we push through to get things done. For sensitive individuals, the body is a finely tuned messenger, constantly communicating what needs attention, balance, or realignment. This chapter is an invitation to see health conditions, especially chronic ones, not as barriers or punishments, but as powerful signals. In this way, we reframe health and healing as an active, empowering journey where each symptom, each reaction offers a deeper understanding of ourselves. For those who feel deeply, who process life on multiple levels, the body can become a kind of translator. It takes in everything we experience emotionally, mentally, energetically, and translates it into signals we feel physically. What we often dismiss as just stress, just tiredness, or even just aging is the body's way of delivering information, asking for adjustments, boundaries, or care. Instead of seeing physical discomfort or fatigue as random occurrences, we can choose to see them as clues from within, guiding us to greater awareness and harmony. In this perspective, the body is more than a collection of systems. It's a constantly interacting ecosystem influenced by not only physical inputs, but also our emotional, social, and environmental states. Sensitive individuals, especially, are likely to experience this interplay more intensely. For them, the body's messages can be acute and immediate, such as in a surge of fatigue or flare-up of inflammation following a stressful event. These aren't random reactions, they are signals, a conversation that the body initiates with us, pointing toward areas that need support or change. Chronic conditions like autoimmune disorders, chronic fatigue, or heightened sensitivities are often dismissed as inconvenient or insurmountable obstacles. But within a framework of sensitivity and neurodivergence, these conditions can be reinterpreted as messages from the body asking us to pay attention. They ask us to reconsider our pace, our surroundings, our choices, and the way we handle our interactions with the world. They're not simply challenges to overcome. They're requests for care and alignment, signals that something needs to shift. When we begin to see conditions as signals, we move away from the perspective of fixing and instead enter a space of listening. Chronic pain might signal the need to rest or release self-criticism. Sensitivities might tell us to establish clearer boundaries with certain people, environments, or habits. Each experience becomes a source of insight into our own needs. Rather than seeing ourselves as broken or unwell, we start to see our symptoms as part of a meaningful dialogue with our body. This is not about passive acceptance. It's an empowered approach that invites us to act from understanding rather than resistance. The mind, body, and spirit are not separate entities. They are deeply interconnected. For sensitive individuals, this integration is experienced in a heightened way. Emotional stressors can manifest as physical symptoms, and physical conditions can deeply impact emotional well-being. Approaching health from a mind-body-spirit perspective is not a luxury. It's essential for sensitive individuals whose experiences are layered, nuanced, and holistic by nature. A true healing journey addresses not only the physical, but also the emotional and energetic layers of being. A mind-body-spirit approach to healing recognizes that every thought, feeling, and physical sensation is interconnected. When we experience pain, fatigue, or anxiety, these are not isolated events. They are often reflections of deeper needs. This holistic view allows us to engage with our health at every level. We begin to explore not only what the body requires physically, but also what the mind needs for peace and clarity. By addressing these layers together, we create an environment where true healing can unfold. Sensitive individuals often find themselves facing chronic health issues, not because they are inherently fragile, but because their systems are more finely attuned to disruptions. This sensitivity means they pick up on environmental toxins, emotional stress, and even subtle social dynamics more acutely, and these influences can accumulate over time, triggering a chronic response in the body. Conditions like autoimmunity, extreme fatigue, or allergies become the body's way of managing this accumulation, creating boundaries that the mind hasn't yet set. It's as if the body is compensating for an environment that is overwhelming, protecting itself the best way it knows how. When we reframe these conditions as signs of a highly responsive system, it becomes clear that chronic issues are not weaknesses, but adaptations. They are the body's way of creating space and boundaries in an overstimulating world. The solution is not to push through, but to understand where we need adjustments. If we can see this heightened sensitivity as a call for nurturing, boundary setting, and conscious choices, we can shift our focus from managing our conditions to learning from them, honoring the sensitive system's need for balance and creating a lifestyle that supports rather than strains our well-being. Empowered health is not about perfect wellness or the absence of symptoms. It's about understanding what the body, mind, and spirit need to feel balanced, to feel supported, and to feel resilient. Sensitive individuals may never completely eliminate certain symptoms, but by understanding their body's messages, they can learn to live harmoniously with them, honoring each signal as a guide. Instead of viewing health as a static goal, we embrace it as a dynamic, ongoing process of listening, adapting, and responding. In this empowered approach to health, we reclaim agency. We move from feeling like victims of our symptoms to active participants in our well-being. We learn to cultivate practices that allow us to maintain balance, support our nervous systems, and set boundaries that honor our unique needs. By integrating self-care into every part of our lives, we create an environment where the body no longer needs to cry out in alarm. This approach does not deny the challenges of living with sensitivity and chronic conditions. It transforms them into pathways towards deeper self-understanding, resilience, and connection. In the chapters that follow, we'll explore specific conditions and delve into how each one communicates unique needs and insights. Through each page, the body's messages will become clearer, its signals more meaningful, and its path to health more accessible. Together, we are building an empowered approach to health that is not defined by quick fixes or resistance, but by the alignment and honoring of sensitive, aware, and deeply intelligent systems within each of us. For neurodivergent individuals, burnout often arises from a prolonged state of sensory, emotional, and cognitive overload, combined with an environment that does not naturally support their unique sensitivities and rhythms. Unlike conventional burnout, which may primarily relate to exhaustion from work or stress, neurodivergent burnout is deeply intertwined with the nervous system's heightened responsiveness and the continuous processing of stimuli, whether from social interactions, environmental factors, or internal states. Neurodivergent individuals often process an immense amount of sensory and emotional information that others might filter out or overlook. This heightened processing can be both a gift and a challenge, as it allows for richer experience of the world, but also places constant demands on the nervous system. When these demands go unacknowledged or unsupported, the nervous system becomes overstimulated, leading to chronic states of tension, fatigue, and eventual burnout. In this sense, burnout can be seen as the body's way of enforcing boundaries when external pressures have overridden the individual's capacity for self-regulation. The nervous system reaching a threshold signals a need for withdrawal, rest, and recalibration. In the framework of neurodivergent burnout, the solution is not simply to rest and return to the same patterns, but to redefine one's relationship with their environment and daily rhythms. This often involves creating a lifestyle that honors periods of rest, solitude, and activities that recharge the nervous system. The goal is to establish a sustainable rhythm that supports their unique way of processing the world rather than trying to push through or adhere to conventional structures that do not align with their needs. By recognizing burnout as a signal rather than a setback, neurodivergent individuals can transform it into a guide towards self-awareness, healthier boundaries, and a lifestyle that respects their sensitivities. This approach to burnout is not just about recovery, it's a path to creating a life that harmonizes with their true self, allowing for greater resilience, joy, and fulfillment. The alchemy of autism. Autism, in its many expressions, is not simply a condition to be understood by conventional standards. It is a unique way of engaging with reality. From a spiritual and energetic perspective, autism is an invitation to experience life from a viewpoint that is often profoundly clear, unfiltered, and direct. Individuals with autism see, feel, and process the world differently, and while this difference can present challenges within conventional settings, it also brings gifts of clarity, authenticity, and insight. Autism, then, is not a divergence to be smoothed over, but a perspective to be honored, a path to mastery and self-discovery that reveals new ways of connecting with ourselves, others, and the world around us. PDA autism. Pathological demand avoidance is a profile within the autism spectrum where the individual displays an extreme resistance to everyday demands, often accompanied by intense anxiety or overwhelm. Through an expanded lens, PDA can be understood as an advanced sensitivity to personal autonomy and the core self, where demands are not merely tasks but perceived as deep challenges to one's inner values and sense of authenticity. For those with PDA, their entire system responds to any experience of external control with heightened alertness, as if protecting a highly sensitive sense of self that feels under constant pressure to preserve autonomy and alignment with their own truth. PDA, therefore, is more than a resistance to tasks. It reflects a profound alignment with core values and an unyielding need to act from one's true self. When external demands clash with this internal compass, the result is an overwhelming urge to resist, protect, or distance oneself from the perceived threat to autonomy. Individuals with PDA are not avoiding tasks or challenges out of choice or defiance, but rather as a response to preserve a core alignment that feels vital to their sense of identity. ADHD as a unique relationship with time, focus, and the flow of energy. At its core, ADHD represents a non-linear relationship with time, focus, and energy. Those with ADHD experience time in a way that is often unpredictable, with moments of intense focus known as hyperfocus, alongside periods of distraction or energy dips. This irregular flow can feel like a constant tug of war between deep immersion in a task and difficulty maintaining attention. But rather than seeing this as a problem to be fixed, we can start to view it as a unique rhythm that requires a flexible approach. ADHD challenges the traditional linear understanding of productivity, inviting us instead to work within its natural ebb and flow. People with ADHD are often drawn to activities that stimulate them, that activate their curiosity and engagement. Routine tasks, on the other hand, may feel especially tedious or draining, causing focus to wane. This is not laziness or lack of discipline. It's a different way of connecting with the world, one that craves novelty, challenge, and excitement. Rather than fitting into a rigid structure, those with ADHD may find their true rhythm in environments that embrace variety, adaptability, and discovery. When we view ADHD as a unique flow of energy, we see that it's not a disorder in the sense of dysfunction. It's a different order altogether, one that moves in cycles of creativity, rest, and spontaneous engagement. The traits that define ADHD can be profoundly powerful when channeled effectively. For many with ADHD, the drive for novelty leads to innovative thinking. They are often able to make connections others might miss, seeing patterns and possibilities that open doors to fresh ideas and approaches. This creative impulse, when paired with the ability to hyperfocus, can lead to profound breakthroughs in areas of interest. ADHD then becomes a catalyst for innovation, a way of thinking that can break the mold and inspire new ways of solving problems. Adaptability is another hallmark of ADHD. In a world that often rewards routine, individuals with ADHD thrive in change and variety. They are naturally equipped to handle transitions, adapt to new circumstances, and shift gears as needed. This adaptability can make them highly resilient as they learn to manage the ups and downs of their focus and energy, developing skills that help them navigate a world that doesn't always align with their internal rhythms. This adaptability becomes a strength, allowing them to pivot, adjust, and approach challenges from multiple angles. Sensitive individuals, those who are attuned to subtleties in their environment, relationships, and emotions, often face a unique relationship with their own bodies. This sensitivity, while a gift in many ways, also makes them more susceptible to chronic stress, energetic overwhelm, and emotional overload. When the nervous system remains in a state of high alert, whether from environmental toxins, emotional tension, or sensory overload, the immune system may respond with heightened reactivity, mistaking parts of the body's own tissues as threats. In this sense, autoimmune conditions can be seen as the body's attempt to protect itself from an environment it perceives as overwhelming, even hostile. At an energetic level, autoimmune diseases may arise when sensitive individuals fail to set boundaries that protect their well-being. Without clear boundaries, their systems can become overstimulated by outside influences, emotions, energies, or responsibilities that aren't truly theirs to carry. In an attempt to draw boundaries on its own, the immune system may begin targeting the self, creating physical boundaries in the form of inflammation, pain, and fatigue. The body is saying, in essence, that it has taken on too much and needs to create space, asking for clear, intentional boundaries that protect its balance and integrity. Autoimmune diseases invite us to take a closer look at our relationship with boundaries, both physical and emotional. For many sensitive people, boundaries are often fluid as they easily empathize with others, absorb external energies, and feel an intrinsic connection to those around them. While this openness can foster deep relationships and a sense of interconnectedness, it can also leave them vulnerable to overwhelm as they take on others' emotions or stress without distinguishing between what belongs to them and what does not. Over time, this lack of boundaries can lead to a state of inner confusion where the body feels under siege by energies and influences it hasn't had the chance to filter. Autoimmunity can thus be seen as the body's way of demanding a new kind of boundary, one that respects its sensitivity, its limitations, and its need for self-care. Just as the immune system mistakenly attacks the self in autoimmunity, the sensitive person may unconsciously allow others' needs, emotions, or demands to infiltrate their inner space, often at the expense of their own well-being. This realization is not about blaming oneself. It's about recognizing the opportunity to learn, to create boundaries that protect the self, and to honor one's own needs without apology. Living with an autoimmune condition often brings up feelings of frustration, guilt, or shame, especially for those who feel they are unable to keep up with conventional expectations. The physical limitations imposed by chronic fatigue, pain, or dietary restrictions can feel like personal failures, leading to cycles of self-criticism or feelings of inadequacy. However, autoimmunity calls for a profound shift in perspective, one that embraces self-compassion rather than self-judgment. Self-compassion is the act of honoring oneself without criticism, especially in moments of struggle. It's about allowing oneself to rest, to release societal expectations, and to create a safe internal space where self-care is not only permitted, but encouraged. For those with autoimmune conditions, self-compassion becomes a key to healing, as it reinforces the sense that their worth is not tied to their productivity or performance. By embracing a compassionate mindset, individuals with autoimmunity can begin to see their condition as a guide, one that teaches them to prioritize inner balance, gentleness, and self-respect. Autoimmune conditions ultimately invite us to respect ourselves, to honor our own boundaries, to value our limitations, and to create a lifestyle that supports our well-being. This journey requires a deep understanding of one's needs, a willingness to listen to the body's messages, and the courage to say no when necessary. Self-respect is not selfish. It's a recognition of one's own worth and the understanding that caring for oneself allows one to give more fully from a place of strength. For many sensitive individuals, self-respect may feel unfamiliar, as they are often accustomed to giving generously, sometimes to the point of depletion. Autoimmunity calls for a re-evaluation of this pattern, encouraging them to view their own well-being as essential, not secondary. By learning to prioritize their health, they begin to create a more balanced relationship with others, one that honors their sensitivity without allowing it to become a source of self-neglect. Practices for embracing boundaries and self-acceptance with autoimmunity. Number 1, physical and energetic boundaries. Autoimmunity may signal the need for both physical and energetic boundaries. Practices such as grounding, visualization, and shielding can help sensitive individuals protect their energy from outside influences, creating a sense of stability. Additionally, establishing routines that support physical health, like regular rest, nutritious meals, and gentle exercise, reinforces these boundaries on a bodily level. Number 2, learning to say no with compassion. Autoimmune conditions can invite us to learn the power of no. Saying no is not about rejecting others, it's about honoring oneself. By setting boundaries with kindness and clarity, individuals with autoimmunity can protect their well-being while maintaining compassionate relationships. This can involve learning to recognize personal limits and communicating them openly. Number 3, self-compassion rituals. Creating daily rituals that reinforce self-compassion can be a powerful tool for managing autoimmunity. This might include meditation, journaling, or simply taking time to rest without guilt. Self-compassion allows individuals to nurture themselves in ways that feel meaningful, giving them the space to heal without judgment. Number 4, listening to the body's needs. Autoimmunity teaches us to listen, to attune to what the body needs in each moment. This involves becoming aware of signals like fatigue, pain, or emotional overwhelm, and responding with care. By respecting these messages, individuals with autoimmunity can create a relationship with their body based on trust and understanding rather than resistance. Number 5, releasing self-criticism and embracing worth. For many, autoimmunity challenges conventional ideas of worth tied to productivity or external achievement. Self-worth for those with autoimmunity becomes about valuing oneself for who they are, not what they can accomplish. Releasing self-criticism allows individuals to live more fully and with greater self-acceptance. Alrighty, friends, so I am going to actually stop there. I think I covered a good amount of different chapters and segments of this book and have given you guys a pretty good idea of what this book entails. There is so much vital knowledge in here that I think every neurodivergent person should be aware of. I think one thing that really stuck with me while reading this book is when she talks about how the goal to your health should not be the lack of symptoms or the absence of symptoms, but rather building a healthy relationship to responding to your symptoms. When I read that, it actually brought so much relief to me because as a chronically ill autistic woman, I have spent years of my life pursuing treatment and betterment of my health in hopes of, completely getting rid of my chronic pain. And I would oftentimes find myself so guilty, ashamed, and disappointed when the pain is still there. It's so easy for me to feel broken because I am not as capable as others that don't have chronic pain. I will do a fourth of what others can do, and I will be so exhausted afterwards. But being able to read that sentence of you shouldn't be pursuing the absence of symptoms, that is not realistic and it's not your reality, but instead take your symptoms as signals and instead pursue a relationship with those signals where you could healthily address it and respond to it so that you could further align and honor yourself. I feel like that was able to give me that much needed perspective that helps alleviate that insurmountable pressure that I put on myself. Again, I will leave a link to this book down in the description box below so that you guys can also have access to this as a resource for yourself and support a fellow neurodivergent creator that is putting their lived experience and knowledge out there for us to learn from. Other than that, thank you guys for listening to me read to you. Make sure you take some time to breathe, drink some water, eat some food, and take yourself on a nice walk. I will see you guys on the next one. Take care.